Well, welcome everybody. My name is Meg Herman. I'm with the WBDC, and you're in the right place if you're coming to a webinar on branding. Today we're going to talk about how you want to be perceived, how you build that. So, think about what makes up a brand, your brand. Where do you go get inspiration for your brand? By finding role models from other areas of business, you can weigh the value of your own brand more fully. It then gets easier for you to describe the values within your brand. So I'm Meg Herman, and I would bet that I know most of you. I'm going to look quickly at the attendees list and see who's here. Okay. There's Mila. There's Sarah. Good, good. Well, all right. So remember that there's a question box that you can write questions as we go, and I'll glance over occasionally and see what questions you might have. And at the end of this webinar, there will be time to talk with me about questions you have. So let's get started. Today, in terms of what we're trying to accomplish today, is describe the elements that make up your company brand and determine the types of role models or metaphors that might inspire you to refine your brand, to find inspiring metaphors from other brand identities, and to begin to express the brand you are or that you're working to become. So what you'll get during and after this workshop is you will be sent two tools, the brand description and the brand role models tools, and you'll get the Growth Wheel article from Nice Logo to Strong Brand. And finally, as I said at the end, we'll have an opportunity for you to ask questions or provide feedback. And of course, you can always set up an appointment to work with a business advisor. So let's talk about what is this growth wheel. Well, it's a set of tools for business owners to work through their issues of working on their business. You can use them on your own, or you can use them with a business advisor. They're designed to work with companies who are any size, any stage of growth, any industry. And they focus on 20 different areas that all businesses have to address at some point in their business life. So here are the four big areas. First, you have to start with an attractive business concept. You have to have something to sell that's interesting and useful in some way. And you may not think sewer pipes are interesting, but if you're interested in sewer pipes, it's interesting to you. Second, you need to create lasting customer relationships, and these are this is facing outward with your business. Looking inward into your business, you have to create streamlined efficiencies within your operation, and you have to have a strong organization. So we're going to look at this a little bit more further. Each of these areas are broken down into include 5 areas of topics to look at poll decisions. But before we go further, why don't we take some polls and find out a little bit about you. So let's look at our first poll. And for those of you who've attended multiple ones before, Sarah, you might let me know what other poll questions you think that I should ask. So please take time now and respond to to this question of, where are you from? Half of you have voted. 2/3 of you have voted. The Chicago elections are next week. You can get practice on voting here. And just take another minute or so for the other persons to vote. Okay, all but one of you voted. That's pretty good. So let's close this poll. And you can see that 60% of you are from Chicago and the suburbs, 20 from other parts, and somebody is from another state. Well, welcome everybody. Let's go to poll 2 now. Okay, so most of you, or a couple of you, I think, have taken the prerequisite. If not, we're not going to ban you from the course, of course, but we do encourage you to take it. The next time we're offering it is February 14th, and it's called Finding Your Way When You're Stuck. We're going to change the name to Assessing Your Business, but at this point, that's what the name is, and it's free. And so we do hope you will take it soon. And good, most of you have taken, half of you have taken, let's close the poll. Well, not quite yet. All right. So with 2/3 of you voting, half of you have taken it, a couple of you have not, a couple of you are taking it soon. Great, okay. So now let's soldier on to a couple more preliminary questions. Let's have poll question 3. Have you taken other growth wheel webinars? I know at least one of you have, maybe 2. Let's see what the others of you have to say. Okay, so half yes and half no. Well, that's terrific. Great, thank you. Let's close the poll so you can see that. Right? And one more poll question before we go on. This is the 4th poll question. Tell us how you heard about this webinar. There we go. Let's close the poll. Everybody's voted. Okay, so most of you heard about it from our website, but somebody heard about it from our e-blast or newsletter. Great. That's great. That helps us feel like our website is doing its job, and so is our e-newsletter. Yay. We're doing good about that. So let's return to this, slide that we have up here. The Growth Wheel 360 screening helps you create an overview of all the challenges there are or may be on the mind of the entrepreneur. And in our prerequisite workshop, we address the assessment of these 20 areas, how you feel you're doing as an entrepreneur or what you need to work on. So it becomes a scoreboard where you or you with an advisor can draw up a visual profile of how the business is doing and identify any future growth opportunities and obstacles. The result then for you is a clear mind and a full overview of where to focus next. Okay? So now let's take a couple more polls, and then I promise I'll ask the last polls at the end. So the next poll, please. Okay. How long have you been in business? Almost there. One of you is lurking. Come back. There you go. Okay, close. You know I'm talking to you. Okay, so this is interesting. 2/3 of you are established more than 3 years, and another 1/6 of you are 1 to 3 years in business. This is great. This is great. And 1 starting, but not generating revenues. That's great. Okay, so now let's look at the next poll. Poll number 6. Have you worked with any SBDC before? I know at least 2 of you would say yes. The first couple people that voted said no. So we've got some new faces out there. Almost there. Who's hiding out? There you go. Okay, let's post. Oh, that's very interesting. So half of you have not worked with an SBDC before, and the other half have all worked with us. Well, come into the fold by all means. And if you're out of state, then go to your nearest either Women's Business Development Center or your nearest Small Business Development Center. And at the end, I'll talk to you about how to find those. Okay. Very good. So when we talk about these 20 areas of the growth wheel, this is what we're talking about. So in the business concept, you have to have a solid business idea. You need to create your product or products, and those include services. You have to figure out how you're going to make money. You're going to have to figure out who your client target is and what's your market position within that. In customer relations, these are ways that you have to address customer relations. When we talk about operations, we're talking about working on your financials, how you're going to fund your business, how you're going to produce and deliver your services or products, the maintenance issues of IT, and the development of your facilities as needed. In our organization part, we're talking about who owns it, whether you have a board, whether you'll need employees, whether you'll explore partnerships, what are the business processes for the business, and what are the legal issues. So those are some of the things. All of these issues are, at some time or another, you're going to have to address. They aren't all important right now. So that hopefully will give you a sense of the whole, and now we're going to get specifically into the area of branding. So notice where branding is. It's in customer relations here. Okay. So when we talk about marketing versus branding, let's just define our terms a little bit. Marketing is about spreading the word to the people you want to hear those words. This is the piece that a lot of newer businesses often forget to think through. You have to identify your market and what they need and how you listen to their needs and talk about what you have to offer that might meet their needs. And you can't reach them unless you proactively identify them. It's easier for existing businesses because they have some of this data, but they don't necessarily have it when they want to introduce a new product or service that may fit other markets better than their existing ones. So when we talk about branding then, branding is really defining what it is to spread versus marketing of how to spread it. So here's a little branding origin story, and yes, it comes from cattle. Remember that when we saw those old Western movies, we saw people branding cattle. And they did that so that everyone would know which cattle belonged to whom. So branding is more about defining what the company stands for and how it can be recognized amongst all the other cows in the field, if you will. And then let's differentiate too branding from selling. Selling is actually asking for the sale and closing it. And we have 2 courses in our online on-demand toolbox that can help you with that. These are not growth wheel tools, although we do have growth wheel tools to help with selling as well. We have, instead what we have is courses under events and then under online business education or online business resources, and you'll find the online on demand. And these are little learning modules. One is on planning your sales cycle, and the other one's on planning your sales call. So you might find that useful. Okay, so here we are in the branding area. And so when we think about branding, you want to think about how do you want to be remembered. Branding is often discovered rather than built. Sometimes people do what they do best, they start getting some success, and then people start getting known for that success. So you want to think about, is that, you know, whatever I'm building that success on right now, is that how I want to be perceived? And so you want to find out how others perceive you if you're in business already. Sometimes it sounds convoluted to say that branding is discovered, because a brand really needs to reflect the authentic self or the values of the company. Branding includes images and messages and reflecting who your company really is, or becoming is becoming in the world. So think a lot about how you want to be remembered. There was a person in one of my programs who was a construction company, and he decided to name his company the Misfit Company. And even though everyone in the program gave him feedback about how that was perceived, it's like, why would I want to hire a construction company that calls themselves Misfit? He stuck with that name. So since he was sticking with that name, we suggested that he could have a tagline that talked about the power of their particular company as kind of a compliment to the name. So I don't know whether he did that, but that was a strong feedback, because it wasn't what he wanted, it was how he's being perceived. So that was an interesting experience. All right, so now we're going to look at this information, which is in the article that I sent you. So when we talk about different parts of branding, we're really going to talk about 4 different things. We're going to talk about the visual identity, the voice identity, the attitude identity, and the physical identity. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these, so I just hope you listen and take whatever notes are relevant for you, but know that this will be in the article that you will be opening. So when you look at visual identity, these things are these are the things that we often think about when we think about branding. And they are important things to think about. You want to choose colors that you think fit your personality and your business's personality, and a logo that really relates to your particular organization. I went to an event last night that was Women in Green, and it's the Chicago Women in Green. And so their font is very rounded, and of course it's in green. It's in a medium green, kind of between sage and forest green. And their logo has it looks like a green woman's wig on top of or surrounding the John Hancock Tower with the letters WIG in white at the bottom, with the dark green and the lighter green. So clearly Women in Green, Chicago Women in Green, their logo very much fits with what they're about. So I'd also like to have you think about some key things. When you create your visual identity, the logo is the image you want people to associate with you. So I want you to think about Quaker Oats, Nike, Microsoft, Apple. I know you had a mental image of each logo, each of their logos as I said them. Think about, though, what each one tells you about their business. Think about Quaker Oats: stable, solid, trusted, old-fashioned. In fact, you know, the Quaker on it is old-fashioned, and that's one of their brands, is old-fashioned oatmeal. Nike. Do you think of speed when you see that mark? I certainly do. And then when you think about Microsoft, there's the 4 boxes with 4 colors, and they represent the 4 different basic pieces or programs that you can buy through Microsoft. And Apple, it's not only an apple, is it, but it's a colorful apple, and it's got a bite out of it. So think about what that does, what that reminds you of or makes you think about. So when you think about the choice of media, you know, what is most useful to your clients? I think the thing that I keep telling people that I heard that was most useful for me in terms of branding and media was when a person who was speaking at the National Nowbo Convention said, who's a social media expert, said, you need to go where your clients' eyes go. meaning it doesn't matter what you put for you first. I mean, it does matter, but more importantly, it matters that you know who your clients are and where they're going to be looking when they're looking for something like your product or service. So then you can think about like what kind of media needs to go with that. So you want to be discovering what you are known for and want to be known for. There are many paths to a strong brand, and it often starts with this visual identity. So think about the colors you want associated with your company. What type and other images. What media on and offline are most compatible with how your potential clients will look for you. Okay, we're going to go on to the next one. So the next one I called voice tone. I didn't like the term voice identity, but it is what it is. So when we talk about voice identity, you know, what are the names that the company uses to express the right things? What are the slogans that you use for your company or your products? What key messages do you want to have for various groups? When I was an independent coach, I had 3, as they say, verticals. I had 3 target groups: career changers, business owners and mid-level business managers, and key executives in nonprofits. So needless to say, my messages were different for each one of those target groups because they had different interests and they had different places to look when they were looking for a coach or an organizational development professional. Also, think about how you want to show up in terms of tone of voice. What words do you use and what words do you avoid? For example, I view the work that we do here as business advising and coaching. I like to stay away from the words counseling or therapy because I don't think that's really what we do. So we want to use consistent metaphors for what we do. So tone implies the words and phrases you want your client to have to remember you by. Sometimes, as we call this voice identity, this is how you express yourselves in visual and auditory ways. So what you put on your collateral, your brochures, bags, pens, or mugs, or whatever you choose to use, but also what you put on your website, and also what you put in a capacity statement if you're seeking contractual work from company or government entities, all reflect your voice tone. Now, let's talk about the 3D parts. I call it visual 3D, your physical identity. Here, if this is a part of the branding puzzle too, how are you going to design your products and packages? As you get more feedback from your clients, these may morph, but they should include your colors and your graphic designs of the company. Do you want to be colorful or conservative? Do you want to be, how would you design these to be in alignment with your values and your culture? Your physical appearance is something that is important also, not only the look of the product. For example, the people who run moving van companies tend to not show up in suits to their clients. They tend to show up in like polo shirts, nice, maybe business casual. Whereas if you're working with, if you were working as a wealth manager, you'd probably be wearing a suit. Or if you're a woman, a very tailored dress or a pantsuit or something. So you also need to think about, for your company, do you have a need to look uniform in public or to the public? And if so, what should that uniform look like? So you also want to consider what you want your office space to look like and where you want to be located. And how does that inform your client about your physical identity? For example, what is on the walls that tells something about what the company is? And finally, your attitude identity. This is an area that can be very tough to discover until you're in business for a while, unless you've been proactive since you started in order to claim who you are. It actually should be first, but it often takes feedback from others for this to come out to you. The values you define in your company are the ones to show up in the visual and the voice identities. These are perceived by those external to the company, so you need to create mechanisms for you to get feedback. I'd start with the professional values first that define quality in your type of business or industry. What are those? How do you know? And one of the ways I'd say you'd know is that you would look at the best practitioners in your type of business. What's their website look like? How do they show up at trade events? What is it that they do that is a part of walking their talk? How does that translate to what's authentic for your business? How do you define good quality or great customer service? What would that look like behaviorally? Think about, too, who represents the culture of the organization. That's usually you, the owner, but it may be somebody else. Think about Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, Jane Addams, Gloria Steinem, the lean-in woman worker. How would you describe the values of each of these leaders and their organizations? A brand is authentic when it is rooted in the real values of the company and most often the identity of the founder. Okay, so let's now begin to take a look at the tools that can help you with this. Remember, every growth wheel tool has a title and a benefit, an intention, a process, next steps, and space for you to focus on your ideas and working through the details of your ideas, and a place to date and own it. So here's the first tool, and I'll spend a little bit of time here. Here's the title of this particular growth wheel tool, and here's the growth wheel symbol. And in the upper right-hand corner over here, you will see where we are in the growth wheel tool, where this tool comes from, clearly from the customer relations area. So here's the benefit for doing this tool. Is it's a way for you to describe the various elements that may make up your company brand. And then here's the intention, process, and next steps. So let's look at the intention. Again, this is the benefit. By describing your future brand, you take the first step towards making it a reality. So we're asking you to be proactive about your brand. And those of you who already have a brand, this is a good way to begin to assess whether it's really working for you. So start by looking through the branding elements. Okay, so here are the pieces that we just talked about. Here's the visual identity, the voice identity, the physical identity, and what they call values, because it's shorter than attitude. So, no, it's really an alternate word here. So what we want to look at is how would you describe your future description as you think about it. So start by looking through the branding elements to get an overview and decide which are relevant to you. All of this may not be relevant. This is probably relevant to you. This is relevant to you. This all may not be relevant to you because maybe you don't have a product packaging. Maybe you don't have to think beyond your current location. Maybe you don't have to, because you're working out of a home office, the furniture and the interior design doesn't matter because you meet your clients wherever they are or the coffee shop. So that's what they're saying about figuring out which ones are relevant for you. And then for each element, try to use words or a sentence to describe how your brand should be. And then your next steps would be to start writing text for your website and or other marketing materials based on the stuff that you came on. Of course, another next step is for you to meet with a business advisor like me or one of the other counselors here at advisors at the Women's Business Development Center or a small business development center near you, and really work through some of this stuff with another. So that this is how you would use that particular tool. Again, this is going to help you begin to distinguish your brand from your competitors and create a consistent brand. So this is one tool that was sent to you. The other tool that is sent to you is on brand role models. And this is an interesting tool because this is a way to free up your creative juices. Some of you may get stuck on how you want your brand to represent yourself. So the purpose of this particular tool, brand role models, is to get some inspiration from other brand identities. And by finding other role models from other areas of business, so you can compare your brand. And also, it will be easier for you to describe the values within your brand. Values are tough because it's really hard for people to identify their own values. They tend to be unspoken and undercover. And other people may see them exhibited in us, but they're hard for us to see. So this is why this particular exercise of using this worksheet could really bring out some stuff you hadn't thought about. So rather than creating an identity, branding is about finding the identity that you already have and ensuring that there is a consistency between what you express in all parts of the company communications and amongst all stakeholders promoting the brand, whether it's employees or customers, professional advisors, or other champions of your company. What's important here is that your brand expresses what you actually stand for, that you are who you say you are. So let's look at this. So here's some examples of areas of role models. And here's some specific things. And so the question you could ask yourself is, if I were going to be if I were one of these role models, who would I be? Like if I were a type of music, what would I be? Joni Mitchell comes to mind for me. It's like I'm almost hippie, but not quite, back in the day. And then, a name of a band or orchestra or a specific song title, and so on. In fashion, would you be a fashion label? Would you be a scent? Would you be a model? And if so, what type of model? If you were a car, I would like to think that I am like a BMW convertible, but I don't think I'd probably show up in the world that way. And so, that's kind of a fun place to go. If you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? What kind of breed might it be? What characteristic about that animal would be most like you? Then as you pick what you are, what words emerge in your mind in relationship to the role models you picked? So this is the process you're going in, and hopefully by using this particular worksheet, you can use your writings to use keywords in other marketing material that you're using that helps you identify and articulate the brand that you are working to become. So let's look at the next thing. So what are you going to do with this? Well, you're going to work through the tools, the brand description, and you're going to let me catch up with you a bit. You want to clarify your company's values and decide what you're known for. And one way to authenticate your brand is to live it, step by step, act according to your values and the image you've created, so you can lean into that. So what's the next couple of things here? Look at other companies that have similar values and look at what they do. Maybe make a list of activities that are based on today's webinar that will make your brand spread through the company consistently. And finally, do things in everyday life that prove you are your brand. One of the people on this call sent me a note about how we are no longer information technology only, but we've really become a communications and a connections economy. So the connections that we build are how we do business. And that's a very a different place than we used to be when we were only a service economy or a manufacturing economy. That's something to think about. Your other next steps, of course, is make an appointment to see me or Cynthia Johnson, your certified growth wheel advisors, if you're in the Chicago area. If you're outside of Chicago, find your closest SBDC by going to the sba.gov website and type in your state, and the SBDCs that are there and are closest to you will appear. And then schedule an appointment with your SBDC advisor. With an advisor, determine what additional tools you might want to work with. You want to be thinking about what issues are top priority. There are many things that your growth wheel tools will uncover for you. And of course, we want you to keep your eye on the prize and work on the top priorities. But if you want to know more about the variety of growth wheel tools, you can go to growthwheel.com and see more about them there. And finally, how do I set up an appointment? Remember that counseling is always free at any of the small business development centers, always. So in the state of Illinois, the sessions are free. You can meet in person or by phone. You'll be expected to fill out an SBDC intake form. Again, remember, this stands for Small Business Development Center. And you can expect to spend about 50 minutes, with 50 minutes to an hour with an advisor. Here at the Women's Business Development Center, this is our phone number, and this number will get you to the person who will make the appointments. Again, if you're established 3 years or more, ask to meet with Cynthia. If you're pre-startup or up to 3 years emerging, let the scheduler know you attended this webinar, and she can schedule something with me, Deborah Miner-Harvey, or Nicole Mandeville. Okay, that's it for me. What are some questions you might have now regarding this thing? And before we go, we have 2 more polls. Let's see if you'll engage in these polls. Can we show the next poll, please? Okay. I'm looking for the next poll. We may not get it. We may have had a distracted operational person with us. So let's look and see if there's any other polls. And the one poll that I asked was whether we had anybody on the call that was veterans. Maybe not. Okay, any other questions? I'm going to open up the question box now and see if anybody has raised their hand. And let me know if anybody has any questions. If not, if there's no other questions, then thank you for attending, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future sometime. Bye now.